Wake up, buyer payer people. It's a beautiful day. Go grab yourself another cup of joe and say hello to Jim and Michelle Rhodes on the Buy Here Pay Here morning show. Take it away, you two.
Good morning. Happy Memorial Day.
Yes, indeed.
We were talking this morning when we were over coffee about the meaning of Memorial Day and that it kind of gets confused sometimes with Veterans Day.
Right.
Yeah. And so it's basically where we're honoring those that have died in the act of service to our
Sure.
country.
All branches of the service, and of course, most of those volunteers. So it's an opportunity to observe those patriots and the families who sacrificed.
And I think that those of us that have family or close friends that have served, they understand what kind of sacrifice that these people are willing to give
Sure.
to be part of our armed forces. So, I mean, I know personally, I have a son that served in Afghanistan, and my dad and my grandfather, and the that were part of the military, and so just really, really grateful for the service of those that have served, and especially on Memorial Day for those that died in service.
And my all 6 of my uncles plus my dad served, all of which came home from their active duty, so I'm fortunate in that way. And so Veterans Day is, I'll certainly honor them, but we honor all veterans today, of course, but today we just memorialize those who gave their lives.
Absolutely. So our hearts go out to those of you that have lost family members or close friends that way. Well, today is a Monday, and so a start of a new week. And Jim and I spent a lot of time this weekend thinking about the course of the Buy Here, Pay Here morning show, and some of the things that we wanted to create and make more like scheduled standard kind of things that we're going to be talking about, and topics and that. And so we will be having a little bit more of, on Mondays, it will be this, and on Wednesdays, it will be this, and on Fridays, it will be more of this. I mean, not totally, but we'll still talk about the news of the day, the things that are important, and then also have a theme for something that we're going to be talking about, in like an opportunity to do a little teaching, a little bit of giving of a nugget or something. So we see that we've got a bunch of people that are online. And so if you want to do a shout out and say hello, don't forget that we can't see your name on our end unless you go in and give access to StreamYard to be able to just show your name. So we just want to welcome everybody.
Or just throw your name in the comments there. Let us know who you are and what state you're in. And most everybody is, I'd be interested to know too, you throw your comments in there, whether you're open for business. If you're, Buy Here, Pay Here dealer, are you open for business?
And if you're not, and you're still listening, thank you.
Right. So we obviously sometimes have a limited audience when we're live, and that's to be expected, especially across time zones. And then, of course, more people get in there and view the archived recordings. And so this will be important. I think what Michelle and I feel like we can do, we think as you tune in, you're going to find that we're consistently going to speak on behalf of dealers. We've throughout my career, I have, had relationships with vendors and other parties in the industry, but I very consistently have been on the side of dealers, former dealer. And, obviously we're always looking out for the interest of our dealer clients. But beyond that, we have a real strong interest in the larger industry success of both the dealer and the customer. So that's going to be a theme that I think you can expect to hear here. And by the way, on Wednesday, we expect to kind of in keeping with some of the themes of, if you think about a Wisdom Wednesday, we're gonna go to White Hat Wednesday. So you're gonna hear us start to talk about.
Thank you, Tommy, for that suggestion. It's like, right. Why didn't we think of that?
That's right. So we're gonna do White Hat Wednesday, and so Wednesdays will kind of have a theme of principles and ethics and
Mhm.
ways for us to have more success with the customer and help the customer
Yeah.
be more successful, obviously, which means more success for us as dealers.
Yeah, and if you want to understand what it is, what we mean by the White Hat Way, if you get onto bhphinstitute.com, which is what we've put up, what we've created for like an online learning platform, there's a tab in there that's called White Hat Way, and so we invite you to take a look at that, so you
Sure.
kind of have an idea about some of the things that what it is that makes it a White Hat Way.
Mhm.
And those of you that know us and have been seeing some of the things that we've been doing will see that we do an indicator and a lot of things,
Right.
whether or not this is a White Hat Way, which means that it's heavier on the ethics side
Mhm.
than the fundamentals side.
And
So
that reminds me, I should share the article that I was just published in the May issue for Texas Independent Dealer. I forget what they call the publication, but it's TIADA's publication to
yeah.
their members. And it's out there online. I
Mhm.
can share the article, but I wrote an article as kind of a fun little, imaginary tale about me intersecting or, bumping
Oh
into
yeah.
the
Yeah.
CFPB. And so that's kind of got a tie in with the White Hat Way and, kind of the dealers who are out there doing business in a principled way.
Mhm.
That's kind of what that article is about. So let's just try to remember to share that
Yeah.
article in conjunction with this broadcast when it goes out. And so that'll be something else you can tie in. But yeah, I look forward to that on Wednesdays. Today, we want to circle back and talk about the recent polls, and we can start with the one.
Survey
Yeah.
says. Yeah.
Yeah. So this will be a kind of a fun way to take these polls that many of you know that I'm out there doing consistently in the BHPH Success Group. And I'll remind everyone, we're broadcasting now live in the BHPH Success Group, YouTube, and on LinkedIn. So you can find us
Yeah.
over there.
Yeah. And I actually yesterday started the process of getting this show syndicated too.
Oh, yeah.
So that those of you that like listen to Spotify or iTunes or,
Yeah.
those kind of things that hopefully within the next week you'll be able to find us there as well.
Yeah. So when you're rolling down the road, the auction,
Mhm.
and you can listen to that, the
Yeah.
audio broadcast and catch up on the morning show. Because
Yeah.
again, we'll be talking about all the stuff, buy here, pay here. And so, yeah, it'll be right in your wheelhouse. If you're a buy here,
Yeah.
pay here dealer, this is your stuff.
So just, Jim, a lot of you that have been aware of him in different Facebook groups is that he loves to throw polls out there. And one of the reason why he loves to throw polls out there is because obviously on the things that we're polling, obviously Jim has an opinion already about the things. It's like, well, this is what I think it probably is, but he wants to go out there and find out from you dealers, what is it that you are thinking? Just kind of make sure that first off, that we really do have the finger on the pulse of the dealer, and and both of us are completely open to the idea of, well, okay, that's cool. Let's shift and tackle it this way. But one of the comments we got on the poll that we did last week was that was a loaded question, and mark my words, there will be a lot of polls out there that seem like they're loaded questions, but it opens us up to a wide variety, a wide range of topics to talk about.
Yeah, I try to be as precise in the phrasing of the question as I possibly can be so that people kind of know where to land on their answer. But yeah, so maybe I should just read the actual, unless you have it there, we'll just read the actual language in that particular post. Give me a minute. I'll find it.
While you're doing that, I just wanted to shout out to Greg King in New York.
Oh, hey, Greg.
North Carolina closed today.
Yep.
Bill is with us again. We love it when Bill pops in. Love
Welcome,
getting
Bill.
some of his, but it doesn't say whether or not you're closed today, Bill.
Yeah.
So I would imagine it's
Alabama. Welcome, Adolph. And then,
Adolph.
Yeah. So Greg King, we met Greg briefly in person at the BHPH United conference. So glad you're here, Greg.
Absolutely.
And so let me read the the poll was phrased this way: based on your direct experience, who will have the most success collecting from poor credit BHPH consumers? For this question, my definition of success is having the most customers reach maturity final payment. So in other words, if that would probably be the ultimate measure of success for me. In fact, just kind of a funny side story on that. I used to sometimes you'd have a manager who worked with a customer. They were in charge of collections, or maybe it's even a collection supervisor. And so we've got a customer who is looking to trade in, and the collection manager is rendering their opinion on whether we should finance the customer again. And so they're going through all this stuff, and all the frustrations and challenges that this customer's been, kind of a high maintenance customer, as I call them. And they might get in. So then the question is, what's their payoff, and they're like $800. And I'm hearing a lot of frustration, but mostly what I'm hearing is the customer's darn near paid off the account.
Yeah.
So we have to recognize that as, success. Now, if that customer obviously makes it to the end, I hope, and this also kind of ties back into what we're talking about on the White Hat Way. I hope that's our objective as dealers, is to get the customer to pay all the way to the end, or get paid down enough that we can trade them into something, different, and keep them in our portfolio and keep them as customers, and meet their needs again and again and again. So that's kind of what I think about when I think about collection success. There's all these metrics we can look at, and what's the real, what's our repo rate, and what's our collateral recovery rate.
I like where you went with it. It's like, how many people are getting to their last payment?
End. Yeah. Isn't that really what we're doing? Because if they pay a little early, pay a little late, we have to work through some stuff. And I think that's kind of to be expected. Most of us would put, and we asked that question at the dealer panel at NABD of our dealers, what percentage of your customers fall into that high maintenance category? My experience is it's usually in that 20 to 30% range, of customers who require a lot of hand holding. You just kind of got to remind them their payments due, and you got to help them through every little thing.
Yeah. And that's, there's a difference there. I wanted to point out that there's a difference between high maintenance and problem customers.
Yeah.
Or like, the ones that we should not ever have.
Yeah.
Put them in a car because
there's going to be
and those people don't typically end their contract with the last payment.
Some of you would have different names for them. I call them troublemakers. They're just the customers that are out to take advantage of anyone and everyone. And so they kind of lie their way into a contract with us, and we can tell right away that they're a problem. And so we obviously undo those deals typically as quickly as we can, or give them an opportunity to straighten up and fly right. And if they don't, then they're expected to, then it's going to end badly. But that's not the customer I'm talking about. That's a pretty small sliver. I'd put that typically in the, single digit range. But then this customer is a high maintenance customer. They require more attention. So it kind of goes to the heart of this question about who can better support that customer. Because if we're really talking about, let's just pick 20%. If 20% of our customer base is high maintenance, how does that customer fare in a third party situation where they're making their payment to some remote servicer who's collecting from some call center somewhere? How does that work? We're not going to have data on that. So this is why the polls become important to us, because we just have to survey what dealers' experience has been. There's nobody who can really, give us any real measurements on that. So the measurement I would choose is how many customers make it to the end of the note. And so the results that came back on this poll were,
we're finally going to get around to results.
Yeah.
We had a lot of people that chimed in from a lot of different. We posted that survey in a couple of different places, and
right.
And so this is what we're going to share with you as close to aggregate as we possibly can on how those polls are we?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I got it. Yeah. I've got the numbers here on the that poll I just mentioned. So in the BHPH success group, I don't think I've got this particular group over in the BHPH boardroom. Shout out to Amanda and Hugo Sanchez. Over
Hugo's listening.
Nice.
Didn't do it. He's in the office. He's not in the office today.
Okay.
Good thing, Hugo, but
hanging
still
out
working.
With Hugo Jr.
So the way to get out of having to work when you're not in the office today is get rid of your home office. Sorry, just tips of the day.
Yeah. So I think this other poll that we threw out there, I think I did put in the boardroom group, but for this one, we've got the BHPH success group, which, I guess you can say it's not surprising. We're polling primarily dealers. There are, of course, vendors in that group as well. But we had one person that wrote in that, two people said that they can be equal. So while I think that, certainly would be true, it looks like more dealers say that. So total of 44 respondents, it looks like.
On the success group.
On the success group. And 40 of the 44 said they answered the one that was phrased this way: BHPH dealers or dealer-owned finance companies because they live in the community and can better have routine and even in-person dialogue. So, when we think about, and when I think about collections and buy here, pay here, it's not just about the payment. It's also about supporting the car and the collateral. So, some of the folks we've met with on this subject, I mean, these large finance companies or capital providers, they ask me to differentiate between collections and servicing, which I understand what they're saying. So there's collecting the payments, and then there's servicing and supporting the customer, which those don't always turn out to be the same thing.
And we really don't have a lot of experience to draw on about how that looks.
Right.
We know that it's out there. We know that there are some dealers out there that do that, but we really don't have a lot of insight into really how we can take it for face value for what the providers say, but how that looks for a dealer.
Sure. And keep in mind that I came up through the ranks, as a manager initially, and in my own dealership, we were strictly as is. There was no warranty, no reinsurance products behind what we did. And so it was a low ACV car, but the premise of what I'm going to suggest still applies regardless of whether there's a reinsurance product in place or whatever. It's sort of like I treat everything that happens after the point of delivery as being an account matter. Okay, so let me say that again. Everything after delivery is a matter of the account. It's not a matter for the sales department. So, some of us are small and those are all kind of same people, but as you grow and you have separate sales, underwriting, collection department, then it's easier to understand how you might say sales department's out of the picture after delivery. There's a warranty matter and maybe you have a warranty claims thing. So, there's also, by the way, Michelle, one subject we want to take on, I'm not going to touch on it today, but that's why this customer advocacy conversation has come up, and we started to recommend that. But let's save that for another time. But basically, what I'm saying is the idea of having anything after delivery being a matter for the account department, and so if you think about account managers, really all those things in support of the collateral are also part of collections in my way of thinking. So again, you can see why people would ask you to differentiate. Well, there's collections, there's collecting car payments, but I feel like in buy here, pay here, it can be challenging to separate those things because we've all had that customer who says, I'm not going to make my payment when my car's not running, right? So that's a real obvious one. There are others that are related to the collateral that, if there's some other matter, even if it's just simple maintenance or whatever, it can affect the account. Maybe the customer had to put in repairs, had to cough up a deductible, even if there's a warranty, they had to cough up a deductible. So now they're short on their regular car payment. We shouldn't be surprised about that. You got a $150 deductible. Most of our customers can't manage an extra $150 unexpectedly on a given paycheck. And so why would we be surprised that ties back to our accounts and collections? So I guess my point is, I think what this poll affirms for me is that most of us that are dealers who are servicing our own paper have the ability to manage and massage those kind of situations in whatever way makes sense for us and for the customer. Whereas if we're just a third party collection department, then we're responsible for the payments. We're not responsible for the warranty and the other matters related to the collateral. We just got to get that payment in, And so that's our approach to the customer. So it's not surprising to me, but I think where this also kind of circles back to is if you missed it, I would urge you, and this is one of the broadcasts, by the way, that I did from Oklahoma where the internet was poor. And so, but I did a whole session by myself on transparency.
Yeah.
And I really talked about that. We've kind of made that a subject around the morning show already, but I'm really looking for all of these providers to be transparent about their rate of collections. And I'm going to get very specific about that. We've already started to have those conversations with people. And on behalf of dealers, I'm going to draw up an email that asks very specific questions, and I'm going to send it to all of them, all of the providers. And I'll make sure we'll come back to the morning show and we'll let you know exactly how that email is phrased, because I'm starting through the process, because it's my belief that if I'm a buy here, pay here dealer, especially a new buy here, pay here dealer, which we work with a lot, if I'm new and I've got to make a decision for my own business planning, do I keep this paper in-house?
Mhm.
You know, obviously the dealer has to be able to afford to do that, but there's some question about, do I keep this paper in house and enjoy
Mhm.
all the income from that? Or do I engage some third party servicer? Or even there can be obviously some of these capital providers that some of their programs require that they service. And while that's understandable because they're in the risk business and they want to protect their investment,
Mhm.
it's also understandable to me that we should expect those lenders to provide us what their collection rate is, what their success rate is in collecting payments. So that's a role that I'm prepared to fill,
Mhm.
to try to frame that question as precisely as I possibly can, because any dealer in this situation has a difficult business decision to
Yeah.
make. Do I send my paper elsewhere?
Mhm.
Because we're working with a dealer now who really just doesn't love the idea of creating a servicing department and doing his own collection. So that may make sense to send it elsewhere, but you need to know what the success rate looks like, because you got to do cash flow modeling.
Mhm.
Who's going to get in business who can't really forecast
Yeah.
their revenues and charge off rates and these kind of things? So it's like, that's something that I think is a minimum that we need to be looking for. And this is where I think dealers can help Michelle and myself as we go out there and stick our necks out a little bit, because we're going to be pressing pretty hard with some vendors. And I have long relationships with these folks, and we expect to get answers out of them. But it's also
We
understandable that
expect to have good relationships in the future as
exactly.
well. So,
But
yeah.
but we're trying to be clearly in the camp of dealers,
Mhm.
and that just means we're going to go to bat for dealers and
Mhm.
ask the tough questions of the vendors
Mhm.
about some of these things that on the surface are obvious. Like,
Yeah.
we should have that information so we can make a good business
And
decision.
I know we had a conversation with one of the capital providers last week, and like really this they're willing, and so basically what the question was is of us is like, give us the exact data points that you want, and then we'll see what we can do to come up with
Yeah.
the things.
Yeah.
And so I think that when you put together this email, Jim, that is going to go out to the capital providers that are capital / collectors,
Sure.
that we make sure that all of those same data points are in there. And what I'd love to be able to do is that email that was about ready to be sent out, that we post it,
Right.
to let all the dealers know, this is what we're going to be asking. And then in the comments, have dealers just shout out whoever, because we may not be aware of all of the
True.
people that are out there that offer capital and collecting,
Right.
and that they just list whatever ones, not with your opinion about them,
Right.
but just like, these are the people. And then we'll just get stuff sent out all across the
Sure.
the spectrum of people that you guys know that are capital / collector
Yeah. And
companies.
so I think this affects all of us
Mhm.
to a degree, based on the direction that the industry's going. There are some big capital players in the market who are prepared to provide, big dollars to
Mhm.
dealers. And, that's great. They also require that they service the paper, which means if we're going to be in partnership with them, then we need to understand kind of what we can anticipate in terms of, performance. And I understand, look, I work with numbers, like I'm a numbers guy. And so I understand the lender in that situation needs to have a clearly framed question about what we're looking for. And, I'm going to ask for it. I will see how much I get it, but I'm going to ask for not just the number, but the actual data behind
Mhm.
the number, so I can see all the raw stuff, so that I can come back to, our dealers with confidence and share, what we're looking at. Because I'll give you an example. Just, this is how specific I want to be. It's like, um, what's a charge off rate? Like, we can look at static pools. If there's enough data history, if you have a full 3, 4, 5 years worth of data, then you can start to look at static pools. I tend to not lean on those until they're all the way to maturity. But you can certainly do rolling 12s and rolling 24s, where you project from the numbers that you have based on your recent performance. So, as an example, you could take, well, I'm going to start to lose my voice a little bit.
We actually had a conversation about that today, where we're like, so Jim asks me this morning, he's like, so what happens if like I'm sick or you're sick or we're both sick? What do we do? And we thought we just need to like make a short list of people that we can call and say, are you interested? Are you interested? Are you interested? And having people kind of cued or aware that we may call them and say, hey, would you do the morning show this morning? for us. But
yeah, no, that's fine. I think we'll try to get
Okay.
back on subject here and wrap it up in case my voice leaves me
yeah,
again.
I have a couple of things I wanted to add to that
Okay.
before we go to, and we're getting close.
Yeah. So just a quick thought on how to ask that question specifically. Like, for example, with our clients, I can say, I can look at the last 12 months of history of portfolio performance. And if I look on a given month, the opening principal balance in the portfolio, active opening principal balance, then I can go back and look at what is the gross charge off principal against that opening balance. And maybe that comes out to 2.1%. And then I can roll that for 12 months and I can look at one dealer's average is this 2.17%. And then I can take all the dealers combined and I can say the group average is 1.95%. So I'm prepared to get very specific about the results that we see from our dealers who service their own paper. And I'm just going to be asking the lenders to give us the same so that a dealer can make that decision.
And we'll take a look at like our data that we have in aggregate with all the dealers that we work with. And we're also asking the capital / collecting providers to give us something in aggregate, because we understand that not every dealer underwrites their paper the same way.
Yeah.
And so that certain underwriting, so that it may still be within their bumpers of a deal that they will take, but some will collect better than others because of how they were underwritten. So we're looking more on the aggregate.
Yeah.
I wanted to say, though, when you mentioned that if this is your large percentage of your pool in your portfolio are like 80% are, you don't have to worry about them. They're going to make their payment. And it's kind of like sixes in a way. As far
I don't think it's 80%, but go ahead. I hear you.
Well, you were saying it was like 20% or high maintenance. Was that like 20? So I'm saying like about 80, whatever. So that 20% though, me coming from just my own background, I'm like, what a great opportunity with those people that a lot of dealers consider to be like problems to help.
Yeah.
To teach.
Sure.
To encourage, to see through service to these dealers, to see how they can improve their relationship with their creditors, with you, and those kind of things. And there's a lot of ideas and a lot of things that we see that work, that we're going to be offering suggestions for, for things like just in like connecting with your customer base, and just that connecting side of it can make your collections easier.
Yeah. So a sneak peek on what we'll be talking about with the way, and the reason this even became important for me and Michelle is that in the work that we do in working with new dealers, it often happens that, well, it happens, many times when they're starting, they're going to ask a question of us, like, where should I set my interest rate? Or how should I mark up my cars? And so when they ask those questions, I first have to come back to them and say, well, you have to kind of help me understand, this is your business. That's your name on the sign. Yeah. How do you want to be known in your community? So this is where principles and ethics and all these kind of things, we can't ignore that component in our business, especially when we're talking about a sustainable business that we want to be in business for 20 plus years. Well, if that's the approach, then that's going to affect my answer to you is, how do we want our customers to think about us? And oh, by the way, how do we want the CFPB to think about us?
Well, and there really is no judgment in like, how do you want to be seen by your customer? Because we can offer you, options, suggestions, or whatever, but like, we're going to say the first thing that's going to come out of our mouths when it's, we teach fundamentals, but when it comes to implementing fundamentals and implementing in situations, the first things that are going to come out of our mouth is the question of, well, how do you want to be known in your community?
Right.
How do you want, and obviously, heck, if you've got the ability to do max rate and you want to do max rate, then do max rate.
Yeah.
It just, there's a lot of that. Those kind of decisions are about, do you know, have you asked yourself the question and defined the answer of how you want to be known in your community?
Well, and folks that are in these Facebook groups, you can see as you watch the dialogue that there are there are dealers in there who are really just concerned about bottom line and ROI and their own kind of pocketbook. And look, we're all in business. It's not that I'm not saying we don't need to make a good living, and we're in a risk business, so we need to make a good living to justify the risk that we take. That's not what I'm suggesting. I'm simply saying that for me to answer for a dealer, there's kind of a couple ways to think about this. You can either think about long term and think about your community and being a friend to your customers and being a good neighbor in your community, or you can think about being just a sign, a place to get a car, and you're going to pay maximum interest rate, and we're concerned more about us than the customer. So all this stuff ties together for me. So it's like when I talk about this, I think I hear dealers that, oh, Jim's such a bleeding heart. Well, Jim's interested in long-term success.
You also don't hear the other side.
Yeah.
Jim's got a big heart, but when you listen to the entire conversation that he's suggesting you have, it's pretty, all right, here's the rules.
Sure.
And we're gonna enforce the rules.
Sure.
I mean, everyone needs to enforce their rules, or they shouldn't have rules.
Right.
But how can we work with you if we know that you're having a problem following the rules, so that we can get you back on track and that we can still be honoring the rules?
Right. So so I think if you're the kind of college student who would enroll in business class but skip the business ethics class, then probably the Wednesday episode is not going to be for you.
Well, the typical Wednesday episode. Yeah. So great opportunity though with those customers that you're collecting that are considered high maintenance.
I've got this other poll to cover. How are we on time?
Okay, well let's cover the other poll, and then I just wanted to give a teaser for what we're going to be talking about on Wednesday.
Of course. Yeah. Just let me we'll go through this other one quickly from last week's poll, which read this way: excluding time spent working on your business, which, parenthetically would mean business planning and forecasting and kind of, stepping away from your management job at the dealership and working on your business. Then it says, about how many hours a week do you spend working in your business, buying, managing, decision-making, et cetera? So the results on that one came in that, let's see, I did a graph actually on this one. Let me find that. I sent then later a pie chart that kind of showed the results. So let me get that where I can see it.
We posted that on the group
Yeah,
as well.
a couple of days later. So you'll find that in the BHPH success group for sure. And the results came in like this. They were 82%. So 63 out of the 77 said definitely working 40 hours plus. So you can stop right there. If 82% of the respondents said they're definitely working 40 plus
in their business, not on their business, in their business.
It doesn't mean they don't do both, but what we're asking is they're saying they're giving more than 40 hours to be in the business doing
the buying and the underwriting or the selling or all the day-to-day operational pieces of the business.
And we don't have time to dig into all that today, but I think the question for Michelle, it just begs the question: if we're there because we want to be there, that's wonderful. If we're having trouble figuring out how to transition to a place where we could hire the people because we don't have systems and we don't have a way to be absent from our business and have it still perform well, we don't want to give up the salary that we're taking out of the business, whatever that looks like. There can be lots of reasons, but if there's a desire to step out, maybe that's a separate poll. But if we just need to find out if there's a desire to be out of the business, then we need to talk about how to go about doing that, because we don't want to see anybody tethered to their business.
And we understand that everyone's situation is unique, and so we're always available to have a chat if someone wants to kind of just get some feedback or whatever. And that doesn't mean engaging that in some kind of a contract, but we frequently will answer some questions, and then, if it's something that they need some help implementing on, then we can help them with that. But I wanted to tease what we're going to be talking about on Wednesday. And those of you that went to the Buy Here, Pay Here United that we spoke at a couple months back, one of the questions from one of the dealers that was in the audience is, in the day of automatic withdrawals for payments and all of this, how do we keep people engaged?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a really, really, really important piece to buy here, pay here, is to keep them engaged so that they know that they can come to you with a problem. They know that they can talk to you about the things that instead of people just, dumping a car off and go buying another car, it's like, oh, we could have helped you with all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
That a buy here, pay here dealer is out there to help make sure that their customers are successful. So we were talking about this yesterday, and so Wednesday, I brainstormed this. So I thought it was pretty dang genius, and you can let me know when we talk on Wednesday. Some suggestions about keeping customers engaged and locking in their engagement at the beginning of
Right.
your engagement. And so,
Michelle's got great ideas around this. I'll throw a poll out there, and
Yeah.
you can decide if her idea is genius. But
Please be kind.
Yeah. So no, I think we can definitely. I have a lot of experience with that as a dealer and managing dealerships and successfully doing all kinds of engagement and rewards programs and that sort of thing. So we can offer some ideas that way. But it really kind of ties back into the things we talked about this morning. If 70%, 80% of your customers are really no problem and they're paying you by ACH or a call-in debit card, and you don't have it, and then take it even more extreme. Now you're sending all your contracts or some of your contracts to a third party. How are you going to maintain a relationship with that customer? Will
How
they
do you
buy
get them
from
to
you?
come back
Yeah.
and buy again?
Yeah. What's that going to look like? Do they know you? Do they feel like you just sold them a car and you were out of their life? So it's a little bit like that. All those things are part of how if we think long term. So again, this is where, and I think this is more true if you're in a large market, a big metropolitan city, and you got lots of customers to sell to and lots of competition, then perhaps your approach would be different. I would probably be able to make the case that you still could benefit a lot from engagement, no matter what size city you live in. But I think the things we're going to talk about become even more true when we're in a medium and small market. Then having those customers do business with us again and again and again over the life of our business is really important. Referrals are obviously very important to us. And so that's going to be critical for all of us, is to figure out, and especially as we go more and more to a digital age. Heck, now, I can apply and get pre-approved and show up and take delivery and never really even meet anybody on the sales side. So now what's that going to look like going forward? I make my payment through a kiosk or online payment portal, whatever. How would I choose where to do business again? And it's a changing world. We get it. Sometimes when I talk about these things, I think we're out there teaching fundamentals, and we're talking customer service, customer engagement. And I can look back at that. When we had the conversation yesterday, Michelle, I didn't share with you that I look at the things that have happened in our lifetimes. Like we've watched gas stations go from back, when I was a very young person, they had full service. And
you never pumped your own gas. I remember
when there was full service and self-service. And now you pretty much everything's self-service. Well, we adjusted. Customers adjusted to it, sellers adjusted to it. And now, pay at the pump and the whole thing. You don't have any real interaction with the people in the community.
People don't know what to do if someone comes out and offers to pump their gas. It's like, I feel violated somehow that you're about ready to put gas in my car. I remember, I think it was Oregon. I don't know if they still do, but there was a law in Oregon for the longest time that they had to have someone pump the gas for you.
Yeah.
So it was a weird thing. Every time I'd go through Oregon, it was like, why are you coming out to my thing?
Yeah. That's probably more of an environmental thing than a customer thing. But it's like, I think the thing we're trying to prove is that, it still matters to keep your customer engaged. And while we recognize it's a shifting world and we're all going to have to adapt to, that whole thing, we do believe at this point that it makes sense to spend the necessary time and a few dollars to engage your customer and make sure that they want to do business with you again and again.
And some of these suggestions that we're going to talk about, those are things that are worth spending a few minutes, because enacting those suggestions are working on your business.
Yeah.
And it's things that can really help your business by working on your business. So
wrap up. I got to throw in there. We have to hammer out the details, but we've been invited to bring our traveling road show to
yeah.
NIADA, and
So,
also
yeah,
we
we're
will
going to be
we'll be broadcasting live, and
live.
some even if we're out in the parking lot, we'll be broadcasting live from TIADA in Round Rock, Texas, just
So
outside
yeah,
Austin.
NIADA, we will be there now, broadcasting live, and TAIDA as well. And like Jim said, either at that, just we're hoping we can get all of the logistics stuff figured out, and we've a lot of really good feedback from the folks that are putting those things together to like, what do you need?
Yep.
So we're hope that everything comes together so we can do
we're
that
out there
from there.
asking the questions on behalf of dealers.
Mhm.
What we would ask you to do, this is one simple thing you can do to help. Subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Subscribe to the YouTube channel. And then also we're a little nebulous about whether or not when we go to NIADA that we're going to be live because that's at 6 a.m.
Oh, that's Vegas.
It's in Vegas.
Yeah.
So, we'll have to see how that
It should be fine. It'll feel like 9 a.m.
I
to
don't
us.
like early mornings.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll use Jeremy's suggestion from Friday. I'll use toothpicks.
There you go.
And keep them up and awake. So we've taken an awful lot of your time. Sorry. We're about 10 minutes over what we normally do. Is there anything you wanted to say before we
No,
close?
I think that's it. We appreciate folks joining in, and by all means throw your comments on there and share. When you find these videos, you'll find them archived on YouTube, and they should live for a short time in the Facebook group as well. But share them with somebody who needs to hear this information.
Like and subscribe on YouTube. And remember that on Wednesdays, it will be White Hat Wednesdays, where we're going to be going into how to suggestions on how to engage and how to the ethical practices of being in buy here, pay here. So if that's something that really interests you, then bookmark that, put it on your calendar. 9 a.m. Eastern time on Wednesdays, we're going to be doing that.
Thanks for tuning in, folks.
Have a fantastic holiday, and enjoy the rest of your day, and back to the grind tomorrow.